A 16-year-old Missouri teen is back home and recovering today after another shooting in the United States. On April 13th, Ralph Yarl, a black teenager, was shot twice, including in the head by a white man after ringing the doorbell of the wrong home to pick up his twin brothers. 84-year-old Andrew Lester is now facing criminal charges, including first-degree assault. He is pleading, though, not guilty. The shooting is a new flashpoint for race and gun violence in the U.S. Global human rights activist Martin Luther King III is with us to talk about that now. Hi, Mr. King. Great pleasure to welcome you to our program.
Thank you. Honored to have the opportunity.
Thank you so much for making time for it. I read the initial reports about Ralph Yarl, pardon me, and I thought, after everything that's happened, I shouldn't be shocked, but I really was. And I'm wondering what was going through your mind as you read those initial reports.
Well, the first thing I wondered was, what is our society devolving into? And this climate of what I consider violence and fear and hostility, we have got to figure out how we're going to address that, because unfortunately, there are incidents, a lot of incidents that are occurring around violence and racism, which is what the initial reaction was. How could someone not even come to the door, but just when they come, they just start shooting an innocent person who actually we found was accidentally ringing this doorbell, and yet I think was less than a block or two away from where they actually an address that was very similar. The sad thing is this exists. It is some kind of behavior is being promoted by certain aspects. And then, of course, there was an interview later that came out on CNN where the grandson of the man talked about how he watches Fox News all day. And he has all these different guns, and the racial scenario was high in the mind of this man. And although he was afraid, it's a sad commentary. What does it say about the United States is the question I had, and what does it say about people who feel and harbor this kind of hostility? Again, it's about changing the climate. We've really got to figure out how to work together and create an ideal model. My dad used to say, darkness can't put out darkness, only light can do that. He also said violence will never stomp out violence. Only nonviolence and love can do that. Somehow we have to create that climate in our nation, and maybe it creates a better nation and perhaps a better world.
When you think of that and the pursuit of countering exactly what you just laid out, the societal issues that so deeply permeate really U.S. society right now, what kinds of things come to mind? Like, what would you prioritize?
So I would start really in nursery school or kindergarten, and all the way up through high school and college, which is teaching diversity, sensitivity, human relations, inclusion, and unfortunately, we have some in our nation who are attempting to extract history, and certainly African American history. We've identified this concept that they identify as critical race theory, which is a course that is taught in law schools. It is not taught in the primary and secondary school, although there are some elected officials on the Republican spectrum who are saying that is what's being taught and we need to abolish it. They are saying you can't teach Rosa Parks. You can't teach the I Have a Dream of Martin Luther King Jr. You can't teach certain things about Hank Aaron and Jackie Robinson, those who were first in baseball and accomplished great things. All of this is being examined, and it's really sad and frustrating. Also, there are certain books around the Holocaust that are being removed. Why would we not teach all of these things? The way you become a better society is that you expose people to the truth. It is said that people that do not remember their history are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. And also, we have to learn how to re-engage and introduce civility. Civility has been lost in the political space, and people are denigrating others. And if you don't agree with me, I'm going to take your head off. That should be off the table. We are a much better society than that behavior that we see exhibited. So at the end of the day, we've got a very massive task, and we got to do something now.
On the idea of sort of the denigration of civility, a lot of it is political, right? It's driven by partisanship. Do you have any level of optimism, given the current media landscape, given the current rhetoric employed by politicians? Do you have any reason, do you think, to be hopeful that that can be reversed, that sort of lack of civility can be countered?
I always have hope that it can be countered. What I do not have is an immediate remedy that will change it tomorrow, but certainly over time. I think that new leadership is emerging. One of the things that happened in November, there were a number of candidates that ran for secretaries of state around the nation who were election deniers and who really embraced a lot of that rhetoric. All of them lost because people rose up and said, you know what, we want to protect, preserve, and expand democracy. And these candidates do not reflect that. Unfortunately, it's a marathon and not a sprint. We would love to say, okay, tomorrow we're going to change this. So you won't have, a shooting in Kansas City, or you won't have a shooting in upstate New York, or you won't have a shooting in North Carolina. All of these incidents that we've seen over the last few days that we have got to address. I believe, however, that we need to promote a culture of nonviolence because we've accepted the culture of violence, and it is tearing us apart. Humankind must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we may perish together as fools.
Mr. King, I have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your insights today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.